Kyle Busch wins the race, wins from the pole position for Richard Childress Racing, his third victory of the season that leads the series. Very much an old school day, I thought, for Kyle Busch and RCR, not just because that's just an old school team, but because in this case, it truly was old school and that teams weren't able to communicate with their shops the way they normally are. So I want to get into all that, Jeff, but let's just talk first about, I mean, Kyle Busch, just really fulfilling expectations here for Childress, 3 victories in his first season there.
Well, I feel like Joe Gibbs was pretty vocal, when the decision was being made about Kyle Busch, that he didn't want to lose him, and you see why. I think a lot of people, and including myself, was wondering, hey, man, what's going on with Kyle Busch? You look at the last 3 or 4 years, it wasn't typical Kyle Busch, winning a ton of races. Started to wonder if he had lost a little bit. And here he comes. And by the way, there's no way he didn't wonder that too. Regardless of what he says, there's just no way that you're like, am I part of the problem here? Tyler Reddick leaves RCR, and everybody's like, oh my God, that's terrible for RCR. That spells trouble. Finds a way to get Kyle Busch, and he's won 3 races. So, this is a never count Richard Childress out. I can promise you that. He finds a way. And now Kyle Busch has proven to himself, which is the most important thing, that he can still win races. He can still get it done. And those guys, they're just doing a really good job. And I actually spent a lot of time with Richard Childress at the racetrack every week. And he loves having Kyle Busch in his camp. Feels like he's brought so much. He pushes them, really enjoys working with Kyle. They're having success together. And these guys are dangerous. And with so many questions coming into the year about what can this team do, they have done a really good job, and you're going to have to deal with Kyle Busch to win this championship.
Yeah, not just because, again, series leading 3rd victory this year, tying William Byron, but also because Jeff, his first 2 victories were at Fontana, Talladega, but it seemed like short tracks were a little bit of a weakness for this team. This race comes at a track that, it's not a traditional short track, but I think a lot of people would be comparing this certainly to a Phoenix in terms of the length. That's where the championship is going to be decided. Did Kyle Busch maybe send a message a little bit here that this is a more versatile team and can win anywhere than what we've seen so far this year?
Well, I think that they did, but most importantly, Nate, I think one of the things that goes into this is when you are a new team combination in today's world, you get almost no practice. You get very limited testing. They were able to test. They were able to test in the off season as the Chevy represented tests at a few places. I think that helped them. But at the same time, I mean, you're really working off of last year's setups and trying to adapt it to your current driver. That's very difficult to do with 20 minutes of practice. And so, you wonder where this team can be and how good this team can go into the future. The more experience they have together. And Kyle's the kind of guy that, really thrives, in my opinion, thrives on that experience. He's very confident in his beliefs about what the car needs to do and what he needs in it to drive it. And when he starts having success with something, then he really can dig his feet in and say, I need this, and I proved it to you. If you give it to me, I can win. So, I just feel like they've done an incredible job as a new combination with big shoes to fill. I know that sounds crazy. Kyle Busch filling Tyler Reddick's shoes with all the success that Kyle Busch has had, but Tyler Reddick is the talk of the town. I mean, he's the guy that, at the end of last year, middle of last year, was like, he's the future. He's the guy that's going to win championships the next 10 years. And Kyle Busch, having to prove himself again, has come in and done that. And who would have seen it coming? You just never know what's going to happen when you team people up. But Richard's got that swagger, you know what I mean, that we've all seen when he gets confident. He's got that swagger. Kyle Busch has that swagger. That whole team is like, hey, man, we're here to play. And they just, where they can go from here will be really interesting to see, because confidence is a very important part of racing, and they sure have it.
Do you think that Reddick and all of the talk about him this year with his move to 2311 Racing, has that been a motivator, do you think, a little bit for Kyle and RC?
I would imagine, and nothing against Joe Gibbs or anybody else, but whenever you depart a team, you have a point to prove. There's no question about that. I don't know that Kyle Busch needs a whole lot more motivation. I don't know that he's that kind of guy. I feel he and his brother both had always been able to put distractions behind them, and when they get in those race cars, they just go drive them. So I don't know that matters a whole lot to Kyle Busch, but I will say this: when you are part of a transition and you're leaving somewhere and somebody else is taking your seat and all the talk is about them, and you go out and have really good performances, it means something. And like I said, confidence is important. When you wake up in the morning and you're thinking about and this is what racers do, by the way. When you wake up in the morning, you typically are thinking about your racing. And when you're thinking about it from a confident standpoint and you're on your toes rather than you're on your heels, it's a completely different conversation in those Monday meetings. And it builds more success, in my opinion. It builds more success and more confidence in each other, where you now can push each other. You now can push each other even harder. And that's the advantage in running well, is that the expectation gets ramped up. What's acceptable gets ramped up. You no longer have to prove to yourselves that we can work this out. We can find a way to be a good team. You already are. And so now you take that and build on that. And the foundation is just a better foundation to build on.
Hi, I'm Parker Kligerman. For more access like this from Pit Road, be sure to click and subscribe to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube channel.